Hey everyone, I wanted to give kind of a summary and an idea of the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. I think this is a really popular book, and rightly so. And my kind of goal for the end of this is that you would have picked up on the main points of the book as if you had read it. And this book had been on my to-read list for a long time. It's really popular in the self-development world, right? So it's sold 2 million copies worldwide. But this book is definitely worth all of the good reviews that it got. James Clear is a clear and concise writer. He gets his points across in a way that's easy to follow, and he has a really good sense of humor, which I always enjoy. He also uses a lot of real life examples which help you understand how effective these tools are on building habits. He's realistic and aware of the common pitfalls we all share: procrastination, laziness, and not having enough time. His philosophy is that great progress does not occur with one great act. Success and triumph don't occur by chance. There are tiny little habits that you put into place to achieve a goal that you have in mind. These habits and choices can be so small that the effects are only seen after a year or more. But this is what separates amateurs from the professionals. It's all in the detail. And one of the very first real world examples he uses is by British cyclists who tried to improve every minuscule detail leading up to a race. So they made sure that their sleeping habits were really good. They made sure that they wore the most comfortable training gear, and they made sure that they cleaned the vehicle in which their bicycles traveled to, so that if any dust could be seen, they would just clean it straight away. So they made sure that it was all 100% clean. And all of those small little things that they adapted and tried to keep up to shape compounded into a win. So with that, it's easy to dismiss the effect of a single decision. I'll rather take a nap for half an hour than go for a run. But the next time you think of going for a run, it will be even easier for you to think of another activity to do rather than doing the run. Take a moment to think about how half an hour every day can add up. After a year, that adds up to 10,950 minutes that you could have spent taking care of your health, and it's all up to that one simple decision. Making a choice that's 1% better or 1% worse seems insignificant at the time, but over the span of moments that make up a lifetime, these choices determine the difference between who you are and who you could be. The author speaks more about a sports team who has this quote in their locker room: "When nothing seems to help, I go and look at a stone cutter hammering away at his rock, perhaps 100 times without as much as a crack showing in it. Yet at the 101st blow, it will split in two, and I know it was not that last blow that did it, but all that had gone before." And I think this quote really sums up the fact that each positive action that you do, no matter how small, is a step in the right direction that you want to go. Progress is progress. You get what you repeat. It may be apparent that in order to form better habits, you need to let go of some that don't really help you or serve you in any way. Examples of habits like these are smoking, overeating, or wasting time. When you want to change your identity in this way, it's important to understand that an identity change is a habit change. What you do over and over affects your health, thoughts, and actions. When you're trying to break a bad habit, shift your whole identity accordingly. For example, many people may say that I'm trying to quit smoking. By looking at it this way, you are still a smoker. However, if you change that statement to "I'm not a smoker," smoking becomes something that's no longer part of your identity. This can work in the same way for good habits. The goal is not to read a book, the goal is to become a reader. The goal is not to go to the gym, the goal is to become healthy. Just a simple shift in the way that you think about these habits can be very helpful. And before we can effectively build new habits, we need to get a handle on our current ones. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. If you don't take the time to look at what your habits actually are, you may be spending your time on things that don't serve your goal. There's an activity for this. Simply write down every activity that you do every day. For example, get out of bed, brush your teeth, read a book, eat breakfast, exercise, on and on and on. Next to each activity, you'll write a plus sign for a good habit, a negative sign for a bad habit, and an equal sign for a neutral habit. Something like getting up out of bed is not necessarily good or bad, so that will get the equal sign. When you do this, you're taking control and using your time to its full potential. The key here is awareness. If you have found some bad habits, this is where you work on breaking free from those and replacing them with something that's more aligned with the person that you want to be. It is possible. People aren't born successful, they make the right choices. Your identity is not set in stone. You have a choice in every moment. You can choose the identity you want to reinforce today with the habits that you choose today. You just need to know what to change. Now we get to the fun part. You know that there are good habits that you want to implement, but how do you actually do it? Good habits are usually not fun, relaxing, or pleasing. The bad ones are. So the author suggests that you follow these 3 laws. The first law, make it obvious. The second law, make it attractive. The third law, make it easy. Think of the habit you're trying to implement and ask yourself, how can I make it obvious? If you're wanting to exercise, lay out your exercise clothes or running shoes somewhere that you look at often. Your attention will be on these objects and completing this activity will be more difficult to ignore. If you're wanting to read, put your book on your pillow so that when you get into bed, it's right there. You may as well read a page. Next, how can you make it attractive? To do this, I suggest you try out temptation bundling. This means that you pair an activity that you want to do with an activity that you need to do. For example, I can only play video games once I've gone for a run. But the author warns, try not to pair 2 activities that cancel each other out, like running and then rewarding yourself with cake. Habits are attractive when we associate them with positive feelings and unattractive when we associate them with negative feelings. Create a motivational ritual by doing something you enjoy immediately before a difficult habit. Moving on. How can I make it easy? The author suggests that we should not start big. He even says that for any new habit you're wanting to build, start by only doing it for 2 minutes. A problem that many people have is that they start out doing a habit but give up because it gets hard. Doing something for 2 minutes seems so possible that it's easier to do. You could also map out your potential habit this way. Very easy, easy, moderate, hard, very hard. So you want to start with easy. For example, if you're wanting to practice writing, write for 2 minutes every day. For easy, you could say write half a page every day. For moderate, you could write a page and so on. Get creative and work your way up. All you need to do is get used to doing that action for 2 minutes every day. Once it's ingrained in your brain, you'll find it easier and ever so naturally, you'll be able to increase that time. Lastly, how can I make it satisfying? A way that you can accomplish this is by habit stacking. This means that you identify a current habit you already do each day and then stack your new behavior on top. For example, I want to increase my flexibility. I'm already in the habit of exercising each morning, but before that, I take a few minutes to stretch. I'm already in the habit of moving my body at that time, so this is just a small addition. You may find that you have a habit of cooking on a Sunday as you have more time. Why not add the habit of making a bigger meal so as to meal prep for the week to ensure that you eat a balanced diet throughout the week and don't get takeout? The idea is to make it as easy as possible in the moment to do things that pay off in the long run. Habits are easier to build when they fit into the flow of your life. So just get started. We are often sidetracked by the fastest way to lose weight, the best program to build muscle, the perfect idea for a side hustle. We are so focused on figuring out the best approach that we never get around to taking action. This is called a state of motion and not action. Motion can look like planning a healthy meal, but not actually making it, or buying all the books you want to read, but not actually reading them. We need the motion to prepare, but try not to get stuck in that phase. If you want to master a habit, the key is to start with repetition, not perfection. The effects of your habits multiply as you repeat them. And importantly, the more you repeat a behavior, the more you reinforce the identity associated with that behavior. If you repeatedly exercise, you become an athlete. If you repeatedly eat good food, you become healthy. If you frequently paint, you become an artist. Each action that you take part in is either one step closer to that goal identity or one step closer to that identity that you no longer want. Decide the type of person you want to be. Prove it to yourself with small wins. You are so capable of a complete transformation if that's what you want. It can all start from now. It's about the little things. Lastly, it's important to consider your environment and how it can support you or not. It may be very difficult to give up smoking when all of your friends smoke and you always go out with them. Alternatively, it may be easier to start reading if you find that your friends love to talk about interesting books. I'm not suggesting that you ditch your current group of friends, but just think about it. Is there a person or a group of people who fit in with the identity that you're trying to cultivate? We may find that our habits stick a bit better when the people around us support us and believe in them too. Accordingly, sometimes success is less about making good habits easy and more about making bad habits hard. You want to eat healthier? Make being unhealthy very difficult. Ensure you only have healthy food in the house. This means that if you want to eat junk food, you have to leave the house to go and buy those foods, which may be more effort than it's worth. If you want to stop wasting time watching TV, unplug your TV. This means that you have to plug it back in every time you want to watch something. Again, that extra bit of effort may be enough to end the habit. So for example, for me, this really worked with social media. So what I did was I hid my popular social media apps like Facebook and Instagram in little folders on my phone. And that way it's just a little bit more effort for when I want to access them. And that little roadblock in clicking on Facebook or clicking on Instagram actually made me kind of question, why am I going on Instagram or Facebook? Let me not. The author went as far as resetting his passwords on his social media accounts every day so that each time he was logged out and had to set up a new password. This stopped him from getting lost in the wormhole of scrolling. As you can tell, this book was full of practical, juicy advice that just makes you want to get up and get going on a new habit. Remember that everybody feels laziness, fear, and apprehension, but the difference is that the successful people push through. You can do it. Thank you so much for listening. I really, really hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you feel like you got an idea of what this is all about. And I definitely recommend to read the book if you do have the time. But otherwise, thank you. Thank you for joining me.